Greetings, my beautiful family and friends of the IPO Resilience and Tough Talk with Ilona. And today we're going to touch about the subject that, again, is very sensitive, and honestly, it will be very hard for me to even have a conversation on this topic. And this topic affects the precious kids. It's about the child molestation that we all hear about it, we all see about it, some of us even experience. So we have welcome back our guest, repeat guest, the Dr. Sam, who is an expert in this area, and he talks and touches about this sexual hurt in his book, and he is renowned a speaker who speaks about this subject and how we can heal those who have been hurt. And as much as it will be sensitive subject for me to touch about, we need to talk about that. Welcome back, Dr. Sam.
Well, thank you very much for having me again.
First of all, let's talk about what is child molestation is and why people turn to the child molestation. There's the adults they can, they can use. Why kids? What kids did to them?
A lot of times there's adults who don't know how to deal with other adults and they've never learned social skills. They just haven't. They don't know how to talk with people like adults. And unfortunately, their social skills and their emotional maturity just never got to be adulthood. And they gravitate, again, it becomes sin. So I'm not minimizing anything here. But there's a lot of people who are, because of their discomfort of being around adults, their whole life and their whole world becomes children, because that's, working with adults, you have to negotiate, you have to communicate, all that kind of stuff. That's hard. It's hard to grow up. So there's a lot of people who just never grew up, and their entire life is looking for people who are much younger than them, so they don't have to be a mature adult. They don't have to really have a relationship with them. It's totally selfish. And then I will admit, I see so much porn happening, and the more you put porn into your brain, you need higher and higher doses of it and deeper and darker doses of it to give you the same high. Like we talked before about drinking or smoking, you got to have more and more. Same with porn. So there's horrible porn out there where children are depicted, in sexual situations with adults, and it's ugly. And unfortunately, a lot of people look at it and they then are inspired, uh, motivated to act out what they see. So when people say, "Oh, porn is just kind of harmless," no, because it leads, and you find when you catch a molester, if you go back to their home or their phone, you're going to find porn on their computer. I assure you, it's always going to be there, but nobody talks about that. So uh, it's devastating. The people who I know, and I do a lot of counseling with ladies, sometimes men too, who were molested when younger. And there's a lot of ladies who are listening right now. Something happened to you when you were younger, and it wasn't your fault, and you didn't agree to it, and you got duped, you got tricked, and it changed your life. Where now you meet someone that reminds you of this person, or maybe of your mom, because when you told your mom, they didn't believe you. So now anybody that reminds you of your mom, you get mad at, or any type of authoritarian man, you get. I just see people who are so deeply affected in ways that they didn't even know it. I know a lady who would always dress masculine. She would always dress with like corduroy stuff on, like men's shirts. And after a while, I asked her, I said, you like dressing kind of, less feminine. That's cool. Tell me more. And it turns out that, yeah, when she was younger, she was molested and she didn't want to look feminine anymore. She wanted to look masculine. She wanted to look masculine so that she wouldn't be taken advantage of. There are so many examples. People who turn off the drugs and alcohol many times just to mask the pain. They don't know how to deal with the pain. They don't know what to do about it. And there's a huge correlation between people who are in prison and people who are molested. So we can go down any avenue you want here in terms of some of the daily effects of. I know of another couple where, he just kind of turned around the corner, the husband, and just kind of surprised her and hugged her and loved on her and just said, boo. And immediately she just melted. And it reminded her of something that she had forgotten about, or tried to forget about, of when she was surprised and molested by her uncle when she was younger. And she went into a meltdown phase for months upon months. So, when things are done to you when you're a child, it has deeper effects on you every day that you don't even realize sometimes. And I see that, and it's so sad.
Statistically, we know that over 70% of the people who molest are the family and friends. Why does that happen amongst the family and friends that you trust the most, your precious possession that you have, and they're the one that turn against that and just stab the biggest, the precious person in your life?
So many times, again, our society teaches that if you have feelings for, you express it sexually. That's just what our society teaches. Sexual expression of love that's what you do, and that's not what you do. Number one, it's not sacrifice, not sex. Uh, in terms of their children, it's something where in their mind, it's easy to get away with. They pick out these people, they groom them. Typically, it's within a family situation, and they know how to get them to not talk. There's a lot of secrecy involved here. You know, it's twisted, and I say that gently because I work with men. I work with men who have done such things, and I try to understand. And I had tried to have truth yet grace, truth yet grace. So I try to understand, and I know again, giving all your emphasis on a creature, even if it be a child, versus a creator, is just what signifies a non-Christian person. So I'll shut up there, and we'll talk more about it. Keep going. There's just so many different avenues to go down to. I just, ladies that have been, and again, boys too. I've spoken with men who were molested when they were younger as well. It just messes them up inside. It takes away all their confidence, dashes all their dreams. They have such a horrible view of themselves where they become self-destructive. So when I hear people who are runaways or who are involving themselves in drugs or alcohol, I ask them, "Were you molested? Are you being molested?" So we need to, as Christians, be smarter. That when you see people's behavior that seems so hateful or so aggressive, is it possible that we see the hate, but God sees the hurt? And they would just be asking, like, "Hey, is there something going on that something that's been done to you that 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 you want to talk about?" So we need to initiate the topic. Children aren't going to tell. They've been told. I know one lady who didn't talk when she was younger. She didn't talk for 2 years. 2 years she didn't talk. Her parents thought that she had psychological, mental brain damage. No, she was molested, and the gentleman told her, "If you talk, I'll cut your tongue out." And she believed them. She's young. Of course, children believe adults. So we have no idea the types of threats that maybe you received when you were younger to not tell anybody. Maybe you didn't tell anybody. And maybe it's time for you to start talking.
What would be the red flags that will be out there that we need to be paying attention to when we see them of possible molester?
To the actual molester, oh, they can be anybody. I wish there were red flags. I wish there'd be a little sign up here. But Scripture talks about people who masquerade as ministers of righteousness. So again, in the church, in the Bible, we shouldn't be surprised because God talks about all these things, where He talks about people who minister. They masquerade like the mask of ministers. So they can be coaches, they can be pastors and priests, they can be fine, upstanding. It could be anything. I mean, I wish, yeah, there are certain traits where the men seem more authoritarian, but no, sometimes the men, they seem more passive and they deal better with children. So I wish there was a simple way of saying you can pick them out if in a lineup, but you can't. So that's why I'm not surprised at anything. Um, we shouldn't assume, always the best, but I kind of assume the worst, unfortunately, because there's no easy way of identifying them.
Yeah, this is very sensitive subject, especially when it comes to our precious one, the kids. Sometimes I usually say, don't let me stand in front of the person that hurts the kids, and I really mean that. It's really like just that they're not supposed to be even like alive, right? Because like even psychologically, right, for them to go against the kids, they have to have in some kind of wrong mindset that they hurt the precious one. Why kids, right? And as you also mentioned, those who hurt have been hurt in the past, which means that we are dealing with a hurtful society of people that are screaming for help, but they are also afraid to reach out. So it all maybe starts like beg.
Mhm.
When who do they reach out when they've been molested, right? Who do reach out when they have issues with their psychological things about sexual problems? So because of their being silent, maybe they're exposed and express their hurt, by hurting others. So how can we help both those who are hurting and those who have been hurt?
Well, first, especially as Christian people, we ought to broach the topic and bring it up because, again, they're not going to do that. They've been sworn to secrecy. They've been told their family or they're going to be killed or their family. What perpetrators do to get the children to keep this a secret is quite severe, quite scary. So a lot of these, as they grow up and to be adults, they have no confidence in themselves. They have no, view that what they say matters because here, even if because their whole life they were being passive, they were being used, they were being manipulated. So many times they have no self confidence in life because they were told that even if you do speak up, no one's going to believe you anyway. So you're stuck. They truly felt helpless. They truly. So when you have your entire childhood being helpless, where you feel you're being hurt and there's nothing you can do about it, that messes you up. Now, God can change that. God can change that. But it definitely affects. So I wish I could talk to these men, and I do, and saying, your moment of pleasure really messed up this child. This child now doesn't want to. This lady now doesn't want to have sex with her husband, who loves her to death because of what you did to her. When she. So you selfish thing here that here you had to get your moments of pleasure, but you messed up someone's entire life. And yeah, sometimes the anger comes out. But at the same time, I realized that everybody needs Jesus and they need to have God as their Lord and Master who teaches how to do sex the right way and with your spouse and nobody else. So God's way is always the smart way. It's always the smartest way. I hate when that happens, but it's true.
Yes, yes, I agree. The sex is the gift that God had given between men and women, and that's His gift that He wanted to give us as for the pleasure, and it's not towards the kids, of course. And we just have to be very mindful and raise up these voices and encourage the people to talk about the subject, to heal from the pain, for those especially who have been affected by it.
In my book, I give examples for churches and pastors to bring up these hurts from the pulpit. Yeah, that's possible. Where there's bunches of scriptures where I give them the actual words they can say to talk about these hurts in ways that people will want to come to you for counseling. So, that is one of the 7 topics that I talk about in the book that was originally designed for pastors to publicly preach and privately counsel, as well as everybody else can counsel. But knowing how these children who are now adults feel, is super important. It gives you a lot of grace with them. You know, they have problems with people. Well, guess what? When they grew up, you know, the only they never learned how to, have normal relationship with adults because they were controlled secretly and had their secret life, and they were helpless and they were hurt. It hurt. I mean, these girls sometimes they hate sex now because it hurt what happened to them, not just emotionally but physically. So it has such a ripple effect, that ladies and men get carried to this day. And yeah, it makes me mad too, Lorna. makes me upset too that their life, has been so deeply affected because you wanted to imitate what you saw on child pornography videos that you see.
It sickens me to death, just to think about that. But I know God's grace can and His love can cover anything in life. And I know that they need to know that He's the only one that can heal them, that can, accept them in His arms and can heal and meet them where they are right now. Because we as a humans, we only express our emotions, right? Like I'm emotionally like mad sometimes, just even thinking about that. God doesn't look at them this way, and therefore the only resource and source for them will be just to lead them towards God. That's it. The one who are messing up others, and the one who have been messed up by those who are like hurting us. So, guys, please turn out if you have any questions and such. Please, I encourage you to reach out to Dr. Sam. His book is fantastic. Absolutely talks such a truth in it. And churches, it's time to talk about that. We want to thank you for everything that you have done to us and for us and the message that you have such a with such a courage sharing with the world.
Well, I try to be biblically balanced and, truth and grace all the time. And the church needs to speak about these topics more. And as Christians, this is all, if God talks about it, why can't we? And in fact, even in the scripture, there's a story of Amnon and Tamar in Second Samuel where, the half brother rapes his sister, and there's, molestation going on, rape went on. And the word that God used to describe how she spent the rest of her life in Hebrew, it means she was desolate. That's the
Mm.
word that was used. She lived her life as a desolate, heartbroken, totally broken, blown away person. That's the word God used. So we have a lot of desolate people out there who have secretly held in this hurt, and it's time for healing.
We want to thank you, Dr. Sam. It was absolutely fantastic topic. We cannot wait to have you back again.
Well, I look forward to it. Thank you.